As we prepare to enter a new era of NASCAR Cup Series racing with Monster Energy, it seems fitting to remind ourselves where we came from. The vision of Bill France Jr. pushed NASCAR into the national spotlight by the time I made my debut in 1992 in what was then the Winston Cup Series, where I won 4 championships.
NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion. My goodness, that's incredible.
For 3 decades, the Winston Cup Series transformed the sport.
If there was any one factor in the fantastic growth of NASCAR through the 70s and 80s, it was the entry of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company.
But it wasn't simply the financial support, it was how they revolutionized sports marketing.
It'll be the finish everybody was waiting for, and Davey Allison is in a shower of sparks.
All-star events and programs like the Winston Million gave extra excitement to NASCAR's crown jewel races. At the turn of the century, the technology boom across the country influenced how NASCAR reached its audience.
Nextel will promote our drivers, our teams, and tracks in all forms of media and to all NASCAR fans.
Like Winston, Nextel actively developed new experiences for the sport. The point structure was redefined and a playoff system was created, the chase.
Jimmy Johnson beginning pursuit of the championship chase.
When Sprint bought Nextel in 2007, they continued that vision. And now, the next chapter begins. A new race format, an emphasis on winning races, and a bonus point system that will reward drivers throughout the playoffs. I can't tell you what's next for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, but just do what I did. Buckle up, hold on tight, and enjoy the ride as the green flag waves on the new era in the sport I love, NASCAR. Drivers look really calm and cool and collected. They're anything but on the inside. There's nothing more intense than getting ready to start the Daytona 500.
Hey, Jeff, you're going to be the part of a top 3 Hendrick start today. Hendrick start. You got your teammates behind you.
I do. It's unbelievable. I didn't script that or plan that, but hey, we've got a Hendrick front row. They're going to be tough to beat today.
All right, now this year,
hey,
we have...
Tony Stewart just came.
It's smoke.
He's already trying to take my job.
Tell him to get in the back seat. Get in the back seat.
Hop in.
Oh, I'm good. I sit on pit back so I can't crash.
200 miles per hour.
They're all set as you, man.
A sellout crowd, wondering which of these 40 drivers Lady Luck will choose to Uber her to their 200-mile-per-hour date with destiny this afternoon. It's the 59th annual running of NASCAR's crown jewel, the Daytona 500, on Fox. There's that brand new Camaro ZL1 pace car, and gee, at the front of the 500 field again, it's Jeff Gordon.
He just couldn't stand it, could he? His 2 teammates are right there on the front row. He had to get him out there and be a part of that. Hey, buddy, how's it feel?
Oh, my goodness. What an honor this is to be driving the pace car in the 59th running of the Daytona 500. And you can't tell us, but those engines are roaring and ready to go behind me. What a thrill this is.
Yeah, Indy and now Daytona. I mean, buddy, and you were in the Rolex down there a few weeks ago. You're on a roll.
I'm loving Daytona like I always had, even as a race car driver.
Let's have a look at our starting lineup, and nobody's closer to that front row than our pace car driver.
Well, you mentioned it, Mike. What a front row it is. Hendrick's 5th front row start, led by the pole sitter, 21-year-old Chase Elliott. And outside of him, boy, aren't we all thrilled to have Dale Earnhardt Jr. back, 2-time Daytona 500 winner.
Thanks, Jeff. Have fun out there. We'll see you a little later. Let's go to row 2. Jamie McMurray, 2010 500 winner, and Denny Hamlin, the defending champ of the race, won the Clash this week. 11. Row 12, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and 2-time. Contrast that with Michael Waltrip, who's in his 30th. 2 first-timers, Corey LaJoie and Jeffrey Earnhardt, both third-generation racers. Paul Menard and Eric Jones. Menard in the backup car, Jones in his first Daytona 500. Martin Truex, last year's runner-up, and Ryan Blaney. Get us set for today's 500 miles. Let's take a look back at last year's historic closest finish ever with the Toyota Rev Up to Green. Hamlin starting fourth. We've got the best in the business.
The weather. One way to sum it up, absolutely gorgeous racing weather. The air temperature is right there in the 70s. Track temperature about 106 degrees, and the winds blowing pretty good today, a lot more than maybe earlier. Final stage of the checkered flag, 80 laps, pit road speed 55 miles per hour. The fuel window 44 to 48 laps. And let's get our Daytona Day party started.
Oh, you bet, Larry. You're going to have a lot to do with strategy now with stage racing. Three-time Daytona 500 winner and Fox analyst Jeff Gordon behind the wheel of the pace car in Las Vegas. He is a 5-to-1 pick to win stage one.
Oh, man, I tell you what, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just drove up next to me, gave me a thumbs up. I think it was a challenge, Mike, and DW. I might take a couple laps. This thing can go 200 miles per hour, this Camaro.
Well, don't forget your day job and come join us here in the booth, all right?
See you soon.
Okay. What does it mean to start the season with the biggest race ever and what could be certainly the biggest win of your career? 1 mile from the green flag and they'll race 500 miles. Outside pole sitter Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Exciting race. For that, we're grateful. So thank you, Dale. Allowing us to do what we love to do. We are truly blessed. Let's go out there, have a great race. We got 200 laps of excitement. That starts right now. Careful, Robust.
That rumble will shortly become a roar as 40 stock cars with nearly 800 horsepower come by the start-finish line in front of a sellout crowd to begin the great American race.
Mike, it's like a flashback for me. An Elliott and an Earnhardt on the front row. Gordon leading them to the flag. Folks, everybody's on their feet. I've been waiting for 6 months to do this. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys!
Gobble him up. If it does, he would be the only car 1 lap down and eligible for the free pass on the first caution flag. So you heard Jeff. Super G flew up to the booth after that drive in the pace car. That looked like fun.
It was so much fun. Thank you guys for interacting. What a great experience. And Tony Stewart for stopping by as well. But I couldn't wait to get up here. I am so excited of what's happening, the kind of racing that we're seeing today in this entire speed weeks here in Daytona.
Yeah, he came around, he came up the back, and he parked that thing back there in the back. So
good.
I tell you, that thing is fast.
We'll have a way
it
home.
is.
Single file, 6-car breakaway.
I started getting asked about retirement long before I was thinking about it. It wasn't on my radar until probably 5-6 years ago. The criteria for me were pretty simple. How competitive was I? How healthy was I? And was I enjoying what I was doing? The sport has grown and evolved in a way where people, if they choose to, do have the ability to step away at a younger age.
The bombs bursting in.
They have been racing at this racetrack for over a century. NASCAR for almost a quarter century now, and for some reason, the greats of NASCAR seem to rise when they come to the big stages, especially the Brickyard 400.
Well, Rick, it started right away with the history of the Brickyard 400. We go back to the inaugural running and who wins it? But Indiana's own Jeff Gordon, his first ever win at the Brickyard, came in the first running. Right behind him, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, goes to victory lane. Then Dale Jarrett, the Hall of Famer, he says, you know what, winning's great, but let's kiss the bricks. Let's start a new tradition. And we step with the traditions of Hall of Famers winning it with Bill Elliott.
Great tradition, but I think tradition is what has made this racetrack special before NASCAR became here. When you think about the Indy 500, there's so many greats of racing in America. Foyt, Mears, Unser, Andretti. When you come to this facility as a NASCAR driver, you feel like a guest, and you're honored to be here.
It's iconic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. In the words of another Indiana icon, Larry Bird.
As you go through life, you find out how important certain things are, and auto racing's huge here. You know, we got probably the best track in the world, most famous track. The history, big crowds, a lot of excitement. It's just a place that gravitates people to it. If you ever go out there for a race, it's just one of the most spectacular things you can ever see. I was at the first race, and I was very excited about being there, and I just think it's amazing what they can do with that track and how them guys can drive and anticipate, and the competition is so high.
Dale Jarrett wins the Brickyard 400 for the second time.
A fourth win in the Brickyard 400 to Jimmy Johnson.
To win one, it's got to be a special feeling. I think it's one of the greatest things you could ever accomplish. You know, you go back in history with the Unsers, the Foyts. I just think it's amazing.
Tony Stewart, a native Hoosier, his dream comes true.
Indiana's own Ryan Newman will take the checkered flag at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
A young man who cut his racing teeth in nearby Pittsboro, Indiana.
The only five-time winner of the Brickyard 400.
I think it means everything to the state. We are racing fans, and we like every bit of it.
Well, we just talked about it. Winning at the Brickyard. This is the biggest racetrack. Other than Daytona, the first race of the year, as you go through the summer, this is the one. This is the marquee event that could propel a team to a championship. The momentum that leaves this racetrack has proven time and time again to help throughout the summer and into the playoffs.
And who's willing to take that big risk? Crew chiefs, drivers. What team is going to gamble, put themselves in a position late in the race to try to get a win?
Jimmy Johnson changed a rear end gear, and so he gave up a fourth place starting position to go all the way to the back for that change. On the outside of row one, it will be Kyle Busch, inside Kevin Harvick. Kyle Busch won the pole, looking to make history as he's trying for 3 in a row from the Brickyard. Field all in line, 2 by 2 behind Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Green flags in the air. But it was 24 years ago when Indianapolis Motor Speedway and NASCAR came together and said, let's have an event. And the winner of that race was Jeff Gordon, a young driver at the time, gets his win at his home state. And now, 24 years later, Jeff Gordon actually the pace car driver. He was out front of the field when they came to the green earlier, driving the pace car. So a very, I guess, a very just honor for Jeff Gordon, the 5-time winner of the Brickyard 400. We see back in August 1994. Cars look a little bit different.
To say the fans were excited would be an understatement.
Yes.
You know, they felt like that was their hometown guy, won the inaugural race. And
interestingly enough, the very first champion of NASCAR was Red Byron. And Red Byron was a World War II veteran and hero. And when he came back from the war, he had a leg injury and was a racer. But he wanted to be able to race at Indianapolis. And so he made the decision to come and race at Indianapolis in one of the Indy 500s, and then made stock car racing more of his forte. And so the first champion of NASCAR. But that's something that we've seen. Alonso, we saw Alonso run earlier this year in the Indy 500, a F1 champion that said, I want to run in the Indianapolis 500. Everyone wants to run at this racetrack.
Well, you mentioned Formula One. After NASCAR came here, as you mentioned, Jeff, kind of once the gates were broken open to have other series, it allowed Formula One to also come here. So what that really did is look at the names. Jeff Gordon, Michael Schumacher, A.J. Foyt, Unser, Mears, Johnson. I mean, that is the who's who of race car drivers in the world.
Right.
And that's really, I think, the difference. When you go to a short track that supports NASCAR or Fontana or Texas, they're great facilities, and IndyCar does go there or NASCAR goes there, but we're talking about a worldwide known facility.
So at the beginning of the season, every single driver has dreams of making it to Miami and competing for a championship. We are down to 4, the championship 4, and now I want you guys to tell us who you think is going to be holding that trophy above his head after the race on Sunday. Larry McReynolds, we'll start with you.
Yeah, going back to leading into round number 1, I really didn't have my driver going much past the round of 12, but watching him in these 9 races and knowing he will go to Miami to shot at the championship, that piece of meat is just hanging out there. I'm saying Kevin Harvick in that 4 car.
1 vote for Kevin Harvick.
Wow, this is scary.
And now we go to Andy.
Yeah, this is scary because now, you know, Larry and I have never really been on the same page, right? But on this one, I think I am. I like the 4 car. He's my pick for the champion.
That whole side over there.
Well, wait, you know, he may not be the fastest car when we get there. He may not be the fastest car during the race, but if you remember last year, the slowest of the 4 won the championship and the race. And I think, you know, Kevin Harvick is capable of doing that.
Now, please tell me you guys have selected someone other than the 4. We need a little debate in the war room, you know?
Yeah, but I'm quickly starting to see who may be the majority vote here. But now I'm going, I think since race 6, 7 of the season, this has been the guy that's been on my radar as being not just the favorite to win this championship, but has gone out and showed that they are capable of winning this thing, especially on the 1.5 miles. I think it's their destiny to win this year. I think that they went and had an amazing test at Homestead, that I think they got some valuable information. And I think they're not only going to be the fastest car, I think they're going to be the winning car, or at least out of these 4.
Well, I said earlier a couple of reasons why Kyle Busch would not win the championship, but I listened to you, Larry McReynolds, and you said some reasons why he might. And I believe you. I think Kyle Busch is our champion.
What reason did I say he might?
I thought I made a pretty decent argument for why he might, even though I picked Kevin Harvick.
Well, I just feel like one race, heads up, against anybody, I want this guy. Remember what he did in the All-Star race? He nailed the perfect restart and drove off for $1 million victory. He's going to be that same driver down in Miami. He can go hard. He's got a fast Toyota. I like Kyle Busch.
Regardless of which one of these drivers wins the championship, I think we can all agree we are going to have an outstanding champion in 2017. This list is a really special group of drivers.
You look at that group right there, that's 17 wins of our 35 races this year, basically 50% of them. So I think we all knew heading into 2017, this format was going to lead us to the 4 best teams and best drivers of the season being there for that final race.
If I remember right, last year, the 48 was not picked by any 4 here at this table.
You remember correctly.
So I think this is motivation for Brad Keselowski to come out and win the championship, maybe in the same kind of fashion that Jimmy Johnson did last year.
That race at Phoenix gave me everything I wanted to see. Yeah. Ryan Blaney trying to get in is on the pole. Jimmy Johnson, after last practice on Saturday, everybody said he's the fastest car needing to win. And of course, the controversy between Denny and Chase, just so many elements going in.
How many times it changed? Who was in, who was out? Who was in, who was out?
It's going to be the same way in Miami.
And it's probably going to come down to the last restart. A late race restart is probably what's going to decide this championship.
Since it's my first time doing the War Room with you guys, I have the honors of handing you the magnets to name our champion. And since majority rules and this side of the table has picked the 4, we are going to put the 4 over there as the champion in Miami.
It was a fun time in the playoffs war room. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. And our guys say, once again, majority rules. It will be Kevin Harvick celebrating the championship in South Florida. We'll see you next time, everybody.